Are you ready for a very interesting conversation?
We are.
Good. Because I think we're going to have one. All right. So, welcome to Davos Lodge. It is my pleasure to introduce Alexandros Exarchou, right?
Yeah, okay. Exarchou, yes.
And he is the chairman and CEO of AKTOR, the AKTOR Group. We just had an amazing conversation back in the back, and so it's my pleasure. I'm Rhett from Forbes, and let's talk about Europe, and let's talk about what you think Europe needs to do in this time of turmoil and economic turmoil, political turmoil. What do you think Europe's next step is? That's a big question, I know.
It is. We started the discussion earlier telling you that very recently we were involved as actor to what we called, yes. We were involved as actor to what I call the vertical corridor, LNG, US LNG coming to Greece, then from Greece northwest to various countries in vertical corridor, on the back of long-term agreements of LNG. So everybody, after this, we had a PTEC, American secretaries were present, European minister was, present, but not very willing to be shown at the time. And we had various criticisms from European countries that this effort of long-term LNG US in Europe will be very expensive. And what this made me believe at the time was that sometimes in Europe we are not serious. We decided, as Europeans, European Union decided recently to impose sanctions to Russia and make trade of Russian LNG, Russian gas, illegal in Europe, starting 2028. If that's the case, and if the European states as a whole and European Union really intends to apply these sanctions, and then after 2028, the necessities in Europe in terms of gas will be satisfied either by US LNG or LNG from Qatar. That's the two sources that I know capable of satisfying the necessities of European Union in terms of physical gas. Mm-hmm. If that happens, the comparison between the price in Russian gas today and the price that we are negotiating currently for long-term agreements doesn't exist because you don't know what is cheaper and more expensive. The one is not available, the other one is. That's one thing. And the second thing is that one would expect all countries in Europe to be very willing to enter in long-term agreements, either with us or somebody else, because they need to secure quantities. The problem one would expect the European Union to have after 28, when Russian gas will not be available in Europe, is to secure necessary quantities from either US or Qatar. So long-term agreements satisfy both of these elements. A, you secure adequate quantities, and you secure price at the time that is still, there is a sort of competition. I mean, there is a feeling what is expensive and what's expensive today. So the risk that is taken, the risk that is taken from the side of, let's say, the US producer that accepts the long-term agreement is the price. Because he cannot take advantage of the fact that after 2028, he may be in a position to increase the price because of the availability of the quantities. What I want to say is that when Europe decides on something, all countries, all member states.
Just the microphone closer to your mouth. Just speak closer to it. Check. Do a test.
Do I not speak
do a test
loud enough for everybody to hear?
We just has to do a test. Can you just do a test? I don't know if it's
You hear me?
there we go.
All right, okay. I will try to keep it as close as I can. So when we take a serious decision as European Union to impose sanctions to a country like Russia, in order for anyone to believe us, we need to act accordingly. Do we really want to impose sanctions? Do we mean what we say? All of us, all 27 states. So my understanding of European Union is that the time has come to decide what we want to be. Do we want to be a federation? Do we be a country? If so, we need to have common economic interest, common army, an army. We have to be able to defend ourselves. Do we want that? That means that member states will lose their sovereignty to some extent. Are we prepared to do that? If not, we need to accept that and act accordingly. I.e., every single member state must take the steps necessary to protect itself in view of the fact that we don't have a federation. If we, all of us, all 27 states, decide that we need to have the attributes of a state, we need to accept to give to whatever is European Union the sovereignty necessary to take decisions.
Is that possible? And I think the time is now for that decision, isn't it?
Yeah,
You're
we are
being
now
forced. I mean,
forced.
you're being forced to that decision. And is that possible, do you think?
Possible, I don't know it is. We are forced to decide it. I think we don't have the luxury anymore to play this game of appearing to be a sovereign state, appearing to have a federation, where in practice we don't. And I will remind you what had happened 10 years ago with Greece and several other states of the South, when they were in need of financial support. And rightly, a lot of Northern European states were saying, why? Why should I pay for you? I don't. So protect yourself, find a way, do whatever it needs to be done to survive, but I'm not going to continue paying for you. Why should I do that? Which I understand. It is fair to the extent that Greece, Spain, Portugal, Ireland would know in advance that they need to take these steps to protect themselves. Now we're talking about military powers. We're talking of possible wars in Europe. We have been accustomed for many years, decades, to believe that war will not happen in Europe. But we are now faced with that prospect, and we are utterly unprepared.
Well, you already have one.
Yes,
That's-
indeed, indeed. But even when we had one 3 years ago, in our doorstep, we relied on Americans, in practice, to have a war against the Russians through Ukraine. Now we don't like the fact that the Americans are asking us to pay for this. Nobody does. Nobody likes it, but it's reality. It happens every day. I mean, in business at least, and as far as I'm concerned, I have fought with my competitors every day in life. And on this competition, the strength is the rule. Whoever is the stronger prevails in practice. So as the Canadian, I read the Canadian Prime Minister's speech today, which in my opinion was one of the most interesting things I have read ever since I read some speeches of Churchill in England during the war, where he said, and I really thought it was a perfect analogy. He says, if you don't manage to be on the table, you're on the menu. And this is something that we have missed in Europe the last few decades. We need to create these attributes of the European Union that allows it to be on the table at equal leverage with the big boys. And big boys, who are the big boys? China, US, Russia. To the extent that European Union is not able to sit on the table, big problem. It's on the menu.
Is Russia really in the equation, you think?
It is because of the fact that Europe is weak, if you ask me. Because both Russia and the United States currently, what they do, they are actually looking at Europe and say, you don't have an army. We can impose on you what we can, and you as weak party, you must suffer what you must. Again, something that I picked up from Canadian Prime Minister today, which I very much liked. Is that the rule of the game we want to play? It is not a matter of whether we like it or not. We are forced to be faced with a question, and I think Europe, for the first time, needs to react, because if it doesn't react, if it doesn't answer this very basic and everyday question that all of us have when we do business. All of us, when we negotiate, and we negotiate every day in business, we need to realize with whom we are talking to. If, for instance, AKTOR sits down and speaks with Bechtel, which is 20 times bigger and stronger company, okay, he will negotiate knowing that somebody else is far stronger than him, that AKTOR, and will attempt to get as much as it can until such time, by winning every time something, reach the stage to become Bechtel. And if it never becomes Bechtel, it will take whatever protection it needs to protect itself from Bechtel and maintain some share in the market. So whatever is done by every business in the world, European Union needs to decide to do it now.
Tell you what, I want to open this conversation up to the audience. You mind?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, great. I know we've thrown out the talking points completely. Yes.
I have a question. You're mentioning that maybe we can decide, or we have to decide as Europe to be one. From the point of view of Greece, where you're based, you have some things happening in Crete with some EU money coming, and how is it likely that the countries are really in line with Brussels when even now they're not doing it correctly? So how likely do you see Europe coming together? Because from my perspective, I don't see it happening. It's impossible for me that 26 member states will say we have an army together. So from Greece now, what's your point of view on this?
First of all, I didn't say that I prefer or I have that we should do it. I didn't say we should do it. I say we should decide whether we want it. But if we decide we don't want it, we need to know, all of us, we need to understand that this is not the case. We are not talking about a federation. It's not a federal state. And each member state must take whatever step it needs or considers necessary to protect itself from various results of what is happening now.
But can it be?
I think it can. For instance, what I'm saying, Greece is a small state, all right. It was forced to take decisions in the last 10 years which were very difficult and very critical for its survival, because I will need to remind you that, of course, not only Greece, but some states in the south in Europe were faced with bankruptcy, and I think the unfair part of that was that they were forced to try to come out of it with the strongest currency in the globe. And I don't know of another example ever where anybody managed to recover from bankruptcy having to deal with a currency in which he has no opinion on the matter how strong it would be, but we succeeded. We succeeded to some extent at least, A, to survive, and B, to recover to some extent. Why? Because we were forced at the time to take steps to protect ourselves. So we knew that we were alone on this. We became aware that we need to do whatever it needs to be done in order to survive, and we took the steps necessary financially to manage to, survive and recover. I would say that the same would apply to European Union or European states or a federation of the European Union if that was the case. Today, when they have to negotiate with the Americans or Russians or Chinese. The problem I identify is that this is not clear, neither to the Americans or the Russians when they negotiate with Europeans, not to the Europeans when they do the same, because they don't know whether they are speaking to a federation or something which nobody knows what it is, that in order to take a decision, we need to wait about an unknown period of time for 27 states to agree, because we need a consensus of 27 in order for anyone to take a decision on a proposal coming either from the US or Russia, and that makes us very weak collectively. So we are suffering consequences collectively, 27 states, by our inability to take a very basic decision. Do we want to be a federation? And if we don't want to be a federation, what do we want European Union to be? And that was my point.
May I add on that?
Hold on. Hold on a
Say,
second. Let's get you a microphone.
For the audience, the people watching streaming will just hear dead air for 3 minutes as you ask your questions. So we're going to have microphones moving around. And don't ask a question for 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm not going to ask any question for 3 minutes. Thank you. I would like to underline what you just mentioned. It's a question, in $1 million question, for many years. The problem with the European Union and the actual unification of the countries is a long time. It's a long time issue. It's not now. Now, of course, we're forced, but the problem is not now. It's quite a long time ago. What are we? Are we a union? Are we a country? Or we're separate countries, an economic union? You cannot pick and cherry things. And I 100% agree with you. But this is not now. We're just forced to do this. We're forced to take a decision of what we are eventually. But this is a long time ago, the situation.
Yes, but look where we're today. I mean,
We're forced to take
we are forced. Now, this is what I believe. I mean, a few years ago, some states, as I said, Greece was one of them, so I have personally lived through the difficulties of being left alone when you thought that you were not alone. And I'm not necessarily referring to the economic crisis, also the geopolitical crisis in Greece with the Turks, if you remember the time. We felt alone, but we were not prepared to be alone. It's exactly the same that happens to European Union today. I'm looking on the reactions of European leaders to what is going on with Greenland, for instance. And, you know, can you see how this thing can be solved? I mean, I can't. Okay, one guy is saying, I'm going to buy it, and if you don't sell it, I'm going to get it.
Well, that's a great.
What European states are saying, I really don't understand. They sent 3 soldiers there to have a picnic, and the other day they decided to take them back because they were not really intended to send it. I mean, seriously. And what I'm trying to say here is, when you are forced to face something that you are avoiding for so many years, then you are arriving to a deadlock that I think we are today. And the good thing about it is that we are now forced to answer this basic question that we should have actually responded to it, each one of us and all of us together, 50 years ago.
What is an ideal outcome to that question? And I hate to put you on the spot, but I think we, does it become a state? Is that the best outcome, or reverting back to pre-union where every state's looking out for itself? What do you think the best outcome is?
It's a very difficult question. Obviously, I'm Greek. And I believe that everybody here will say I'm French, I'm German, will have history.
But to look at this, I mean, from a survival perspective, and looking at where the world is, I mean, Europe collectively is a big economic powerhouse.
In my opinion, you said the critical word, survival. So yes, if I'm going to again refer to the...
Together it can't be bullied. Individually it can.
I agree to you. I agree with what you're saying. And I think what Canadian Prime Minister, I read this speech, I will read it many times because I think it is very informative in the sense of what he said. Again, if you're not on the table, you're on the menu. If you don't want to be on the menu, you need to do whatever is necessary to sit on the table. And to sit on the table, I'm afraid, we need to be strong. And we cannot, as Europeans, be strong if we are fragmented to 27, 30 different ideas and 30 different economies.
Yeah.
You gentlemen there?
Any comments or questions?
I do have a question. I'm just going to stand up so you can see myself a bit better. So, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Elia Proma. I'm from Germany originally. And I mean, if we're honest, at the end of the day, the world dynamic is whoever has the bigger stick is going to be able to protect himself. So, I mean, that's how it is. But you're saying that we need to basically bigger our sticks so that we can protect ourselves, which in itself is correct in the first place. The problem that I see is the thing that results from that is that we Germans, we need to ramp up our military, which also means we need more forces for our militaries. And that means we need more young people, like myself, to be able to be in those militaries and to especially be willing to do that. And I see a foundational problem because out of everything that happened through the last years, the trust and the belief in our own country, in my generation, was completely destroyed. And from every single one of the people in my age, if you ask every single one of them, would you protect Germany, they would say they would rather give away the force to whoever outside, just because the system is so broken for us young people that we wouldn't stand up for it. So I see a basic problem with every single one that I know in my age, that they say, I'm not going to take part in the war, I'm not going to take part in the military, I will not take up the stick, because the system itself is not worth protecting for myself. So how would you respond to that, and what would you do in that way?
Well, I think NATO just now said that Germany was going to have the largest army, or contributing army in NATO. Is that correct?
Yeah, but they're all old.
They're all old.
Well, I would very much like to respond to that. Because I heard you are from Germany, but I've heard the exact same thing from young people in Greece. And to my amazement, I have to say, because I'm not young, I'm 60 years of age, I was brought up with totally different principles, let's say like this. Yeah. I would defend my country even at my 60, and the system is irrelevant. The fact that Europe now is facing what exactly you're saying. I'm telling you, it's not a German issue, it's a Greek issue, and I'm sure it's an Italian issue, it's a French issue, but it's not an American one. It's not a Russian one, and it's not a Chinese one. So if you go to America, most of young people will very much like to defend their country, whichever way they understand defending, and the same applies to Russia, and the same applies to China. Europe spent the good part of the last 100 years trying to avoid war, by creating social phenomena and financial phenomena, like the one you just described, by making people unwilling to defend anything, which is very sad, I have to say. It is a very important issue that needs to be solved, and I understand this is not solved with the question I raised earlier, whether we want to be unified or we have to be a federal or non-federal state is relevant. What we need to do is again, remember that we need our sovereignty. And we need, I'll tell you something that may shock you. What Trump is saying is American first, okay? Is it anything wrong with it? If we were saying Europe first or Germany first, if the politicians in Germany we're addressing you and saying, well, Germany first, we're going to do whatever we can to give you the basic reasons for you to defend Germany. Will that, your position as a young man in Germany be different than the one which is today? I say yes.
A crisis does that.
Yes. And I would also say that if European Union or a federation of European states, if we ever decide to do so, give you the same attention that Trump is currently giving to his people, you may have changed the position you have today. And you will most probably be ready to sacrifice something to defend what we believe to be European Union, or if that fails and the answer is different, what would have been Germany? So, yes, I am not at all against the concept of America first, or Europe first, or Greek first, as long as we know what we are protecting.
I think to your point, I see it in the U.S. Where young people that are about your age, they've been bombarded year after year after year with these messages that you're not going to have a place in this new economy. Your job prospects are low, your future is not bright, and I think a lot of you're probably getting a lot of that. I would imagine in Europe too, of that the system's not going to be there for you. It's not going to work for you like it did your parents or your grandparents. And I think that's part of that disillusionment of young people not wanting to.
But listen, what this young man is saying, and I think he's to some extent very right. What he says, we have a situation in Europe where we over-regulate, we spend hours, months, years in regulating every single aspect of our activities in a clear attempt to make everything very expensive. So the more we regulate, the more expensive the product becomes.
Capitalism is not working for that. Yeah, right.
Yes, and this young chap is saying, oh, not the gentleman that he just spoke, but every young person in Europe is saying, well, I am paid reasonably well, okay, but not very dissimilar to someone in the US, or at least not significantly, but I cannot afford most of the things that can be afforded by my neighbors. For instance, in America, they live better than I do. In Turkey, which is not European, they live better than the average person lives far better than Europeans. Why? Because the cost is significantly lower. But we decided to depend exclusively Greek energy. Yes, noble. I would very much agree with it and I support it. Are we ready to pay the cost? To pay the cost, it means that the young people in the European Union should not suffer for a decision to go on green. If we can afford to go as green as we would like it to be, let's negotiate among ourselves in order to make energy, for instance, affordable to our citizens first, and protect them, allow them to live reasonably well, and then go to the next step of improving their life in going greener. Right. But we cannot decide in abstract of the people, which is what, in my opinion, the biggest criticism I personally have against the European Union as it operates today, is this. We legislate, we regulate in total abstract of the need of the average person in the different 27 member states of the European Union. And for as long as that happens, the gentleman will be right, and the problem will be that we will not be able to answer the question you just raised, whether we want a federation of the state, because he doesn't care at all. I'm not referring to you, obviously. Nobody does. It has become an irrelevant question. But the consequences of this is what we're suffering today. We call this guy bully, the other guy bully. The practice, the real question is, we have allowed everybody to bully us. And if you are subject to bullying, the problem is yours, not the bully.
Well said. And time has not been our friend. We have to wrap it up. I could continue this for another hour at least, and I'm sure we have another 15 questions. Let me ask if we can. I don't know.
I want to make a quick plug in. If you haven't gotten a book of Red Power and the Mentors, go get a copy. That's the first shameless plug I need you to do. My name is Chase, head of Concord App. My question is for Alexandros quickly. If you were sitting in between President Trump and German Chancellor right now for the future of investment, infrastructure, and energy, and to make a Forbes headline tomorrow, what would you practically say to them to solve these issues that have been mentioned in this room, and if technology can be a part of it? Thank you.
Right now, I wouldn't like to be in that room at all. So I cannot answer this. I really can't.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the plug on the book. Thank you. This has been a great conversation. And Alexandros, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Let's get a picture.